Hey guys, what's up? Lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss Guardians of the Galaxy. Came out August 1st, 2014, written and directed by James Gunn, starring Chris Pratt as Peter Quill, Zoe Saldana as Gamora, Drax the Destroyer is played by Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel is the voice of Groot, Bradley Cooper is the voice of Rocket, Michael Rooker is Yondu. We have Sean Gunn, actually James Gunn's brother, as one of the Ravengers, but he also is the green suit screen stand-in for Rocket in some of the scenes. That's some little behind-the-scenes info for you there. Who else? Lee Pace is Roman the Accuser. This film is awesome. This film is legendary. This cast is legendary. This is a Marvel film distributed by, Warner Brothers Pictures. Now, my family was actually invited to see not a pre-screening, but a special event trailer, if that makes any sense. It was July 7th, 2014 at 7 p.m. So it was the 7th at 7 at 7 in an IMAX theater at a Regal out on the island. And everyone was so confused when we were there because we were like, is Disney literally just going to give us a 17-minute, because it was a 17-minute long trailer, quote unquote, but it was a preview. And we're like, how are they going to give us a 17-minute long preview? Like, the trailers make this film look awesome. It's a space epic, basically, with these ragtag group of space pirates, basically. And you're like, how are they going to show us a 17-minute trailer? So we get to the IMAX theater. All of us are sitting down. If there were whispers, or they were like, what if they show us the whole movie? Because it comes out, a couple weeks later. But they didn't show us the whole movie. So what we saw was the breakout of the kiln. So they're all in the yellow jumpsuits. They break out of the kiln, and it was awesome seeing that sequence in IMAX when that little central port that they jump into dives down the kiln and then through that little port. It was so cool seeing that in IMAX, and it was cool because the entire theater was just in an uproar of applause. Within that 17 minutes, we were just blown away by the footage that were actually shown. And then, of course, the internet exploded and hashtags were created many, many times, and how excited the entire internet was for this film. This has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. The 2-hour-long film came out in 2014. Marvel had not put a film out like this ever. This was the first of its kind. It was witty, it was funny, it was mesmerizing to watch. Now, remember I said when Winter Soldier came out from the Russo brothers, that changed the game for Marvel. This also changed the game for Marvel. James Gunn's Guardians made so much money, and it was such a hit that it changed the game. Having a soundtrack full of songs from the 70s and 80s, corresponding with Peter Quill's backstory, that he was taken by the Ravengers when he was a kid, because his dad had hired them to bring him to them. We find out more about Peter's dad in the second installment, Volume 2. But to have the Awesomeness Mix Volume 1 as the soundtrack for the entire movie, brilliant. A film has never done that before. A film has never been that whimsical, witty. I keep saying witty, but that's the best way to explain it. So the plot of this film, Peter Quill's mom dies in '88. He is taken off Earth, off Terra, by the Ravengers. He then is, for the next 20 years, he's grown up as a Ravenger. Then he's on his own mission to get an orb on this planet that is abandoned. The orb turns out to be the Power Stone, one of the Infinity Stones. So this is the next Infinity Stone that we've seen. So we've seen the Space Stone in the Tesseract. We've seen the Mind Stone in Loki's scepter, given by the Chitauri, and by the others, and then used to control the Chitauri. Then we've seen the Reality Stone and the Ether from Thor's Dark World. Now this is the 4th stone we're seeing in the Marvel saga, the Power Stone, right? So they give the backstory of the Infinity Stones, how before creation, there were these stones, these 6 Infinity Stones. Now, Tanalir Tavan, the Collector, played by Benicio del Toro, genius that he is, we first see him at the very end of Thor Dark World in a post-credit scene. Now he's back, and he has he already has the Reality Stone. Now he wants the Power Stone. So how it gets to him, there's a little fight scene on Xandar. You have Peter Quill trying to get the orb back from one of the buyers. You have Gamora, who is a daughter of Thanos, working with Ronan the Accuser to get the orb. Then you have Rocket and Groot, who just want a bounty want 40,000 units for the bounty that Peter Quill is being pitched for from Yondu. So they're all fighting each other. They all wind up in prison. They all wind up at the kiln, right? The kiln is that scene that I saw that preview for a couple weeks before the movie came out. They join forces. Basically, they escape the kiln together. They go to the planet Nowhere, which isn't really a planet. It's just the skull of this ancient celestial, but it's a mining facility. So at there, again, there's, you know, more growth, more involvement with each other, and Nebula, who's also a daughter of Thanos, who is Gamora's sister, not by blood, but by rays, is still working with Ronan, and the key is for Ronan to get the orb, so that way Thanos can destroy Xandar for him, because there's been a Kree versus Xandar conflict for generations, something to that extent. So Drax has a tiff with Ronan, and he calls Ronan and crew to come to Nowhere, so that way Drax can destroy the army all by himself, which he can't, clearly. So all hell breaks loose. Peter winds up saving Gamora in space. Yondu and company of the Ravengers wind up picking them all up after Ronan gets the orb. And then they have this brainstorming session on the Ravenger vessel, right? And that, I don't know how long, 7-8 minute scene, something to that extent, of the five of them, of the five Guardians, talking in one of the basements of the lower levels of the ship to come up with a plan to get the orb back, is so pivotal, because you have all of these characters interacting with each other. You know, Rocket's previously confessed that, you know, he hates it when he's called vermin and rodent, that he didn't ask to be made. You know, he didn't ask to be ripped out, put back together again, you know. Then Peter goes on this spiel of that. He looks around and he sees losers, that everyone's lost something, and then that's what brings him together, and he wants them to be friends so that way they can all work together to actually get the same goal, to save the universe, to save the galaxy. And it's so cool seeing these characters progress from enemies to frenemies to friends to family in the course of this 2-hour film. It's genius writing and character development that James actually did. And bravo to James for the amount of in-depth work that he put into this film, and then film series and saga as you know, the characters continue on within Marvel. So they get the plan. They go to Xandar to protect Xandar. They work with Nova Corps to try to make sure Ronan's ship doesn't actually, you know, come, because Ronan has the stone, so he doesn't want... If Ronan touches the Earth, if Ronan touches Xandar's ground, then he can wipe out everyone on Xandar. So that's the basic goal. So fighting happens yet again. Peter eventually grabs the Power Stone, and then the Guardians all wind up holding Peter so that way he doesn't explode. Basically, they kill Ronan. They give the stone, they give the Infinity Stone to Nova Corps to protect. Then it turns out that Peter Quill is half Terran and half Celestial, as in half something very ancient. That's why he was capable of holding the stone for as long as he could. And then Groot winds up sacrificing himself in the course of this battle. A baby Groot is now reborn, essentially, in the care of Rocket, which is hysterical, having him dance at the end of the film. Howard the Duck shows up at the very end, post-credits scene. That's pretty much the film. Now, again, the legacy that this has instilled is phenomenal. And what's interesting is that Disneyland actually redid their Tower of Terror, their Hollywood Tower of Terror, as a Guardians of the Galaxy escape thing. That you go into Tavon's collection, and he is trying to collect the Guardians, and Rocket needs everyone's palms to get clearance to get the Guardians out. And it's this whole interactive experience, which is cool, with the tower going up and down, but you're actually in nowhere. You're in Tavon's collection trying to save the Guardians. It's very entertaining, but it's really cool the amount of detail that they actually put in there. I was there this past summer for this, and it was a lot of, not really a lot of conflict, but a lot of conflict from the old school folk, in the sense they didn't want anything to be touched for the Tower of Terror. But when the Guardians Escape opened, everyone's been raving about it. And then they got rid of A Bug's Land, and they're going to put a Marvel universe, a Marvel world, Marvel Land, next to Guardians Tower. Genius. It's genius, because these characters are so marketable. And that's why Volume 2 did so well. That's why Infinity War was a big part of it. That's why Thor Ragnarok, the end of that, was very important, with how Thor meets up with the Guardians, etc., etc. We'll talk about that later on. But these characters are very important in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this story, this movie was so amazing 5 years ago. It's been 5 years since this film came out. It's amazing. Amazing how long it's been. But how important this film is within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How important these characters are. How important these backstories and stories are within the Infinity Saga of the 11 years of Marvel films of the fight of Thanos with the Infinity Stones. Genius. What did you guys think of the first Guardians of the Galaxy? Do you love it as much as I do? This is the Marvel film that I've watched the most of, to be completely honest. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. I've watched this numerous times, way more than any other Marvel film. Hands down. Not even a competition. True story. Mucho mahalo, guys.